What did you do to them, Sophia? His voice barely rose above a whisper. For the first time in 6 months, the Benjamin triplets weren't crying. They were sleeping. And the maid lay beside them, as if she'd cast a spell. The maid who was never supposed to touch them lay still on the edge of the bed, yellow gloves half off her hands. 3 tiny bodies sleeping beside her. Silence. Heavy, impossible silence. The Millionaire's triplets didn't sleep until the maid did something that changed everything. In Beverly Hills, where success was measured in square footage and security gates, Williams Benjamin's estate had one flaw money couldn't hide: the sound of crying. For half a year, his mansion echoed with wails that shattered even the thickest glass walls. Doctors had come and gone. Sleep specialists had flown in from New York. The best formula, the latest sleep tracking tech. Nothing worked. The triplets, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne, lived in a rhythm of relentless exhaustion. But tonight, there was something new inside the house. Something Williams hadn't heard since the day they were born: silence. Before the story unfolds, ask yourself, how many hearts go unheard while the world sleeps? If that question lingers in you, don't let it pass. Stay with me. Subscribe, not for numbers or noise, but because some stories deserve to be witnessed, not just watched.
My name is Sophia Turner, and I wasn't hired to fix miracles. I was hired to scrub floors, polish glass, and stay invisible. In this house, maids didn't hold babies. We didn't even speak unless spoken to. Yet somehow, I ended up on the Millionaire's bed, surrounded by the very children no one could calm. I didn't plan to touch them. I didn't plan to fall asleep. But the truth is, I recognized their cries long before I ever held them. That sound, I'd lived with it once before, and I buried it deep. Williams Benjamin could program his mansion with a word. Every light, every lock, every breath of air obeyed him, except his daughters. Their sleeplessness had turned him into a stranger inside his own empire. He'd hired experts, but none of them noticed what I did. The triplets weren't broken. They were grieving, just like their father, just like me. As I slept beside them that night, their tiny chests rising against mine, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just their first real rest. It was mine too. And before I even knew it, the past I'd spent years trying to silence was about to speak again.
By morning, the mansion was still. No cries, no alarms, just a faint hum of a refrigerator and the whisper of rain easing off the glass walls. For a moment, Beverly Hills had forgotten how to breathe. Downstairs, Williams Benjamin stood in the kitchen, staring at a half-drunk mug of coffee gone cold. His reflection in the marble backsplash looked like a ghost wearing his life. The man who once built empires from nothing now couldn't build peace inside his own home. He used to believe Neuralink innovations could fix anything. His voice control systems could warm a house before dawn, track an infant's heart rate, even detect stress in the rhythm of a cry. But none of it mattered. The monitors beeped, the app synced, and still, every night, his daughters screamed until their tiny voices cracked. Melissa had called them miracles. Her last words, before the room filled with sirens and panic, were, "Tell them." I waited for them. He had told them every day since, but the words never soothed them. How could they, when he barely believed them himself? The house had turned into a rotating door of experts. Nannies from Switzerland, sleep consultants from Boston, a pediatric neurologist who charged by the minute. Each left faster than the last, eyes hollow from the sound that never stopped. One of them swore the mansion was cursed. Another demanded hazard pay. Sophia never said a word. She moved quietly through the chaos, scrubbing bottles, folding blankets, sweeping to the nursery like a shadow. But she saw what no one else noticed. The babies flinched when the automatic lights flicked on too bright. They tensed when voices rose. They calmed only when someone hummed, a low, steady vibration that cut through the static of machines. She didn't hum out loud at first, just under her breath, barely audible, a rhythm she couldn't quite remember but couldn't forget either. Upstairs, Williams leaned against a nursery doorframe, the sleepless haze of 6 months pressing behind his eyes. The house that had once sounded like success now sounded like grief. His voice cracked when he finally spoke, not to anyone in particular, but to the empty air. I'd give anything for silence. The storm came like punishment. Thunder cracked over Beverly Hills, shaking the glass walls of the Benjamin estate. Rain hammered the rooftop in relentless rhythm, drowning out even the sound of Triplets' cries. Almost. By midnight, the mansion was chaos. One of the nannies, pale and shaking, muttered something about bad omens and stormed out mid-shift, clutching her final paycheck. The front door slammed behind her, swallowed by thunder. Upstairs, the cries didn't stop. Sophia had stayed late, polishing silver in the kitchen just to avoid the rain outside. She could hear them, the desperate wails echoing down the hall, slicing to the hum of the storm. Her hands froze on the cloth. Then she heard it, a sound worse than the crying, a low, broken sob. She followed it, barefoot on cold tile, until she found him. Williams Benjamin sat slumped against the nursery door, rain still dripping from his hair and suit. He must have gone outside at some point, to breathe, to break, to run away for a second, but now he just looked hollow. "Mr. Benjamin?" she whispered. He didn't look up. His hands shook as he pressed his palms to his face. "They never stop, Sophia. They never stop." She crouched beside him, heart thudding. "You need rest, sir." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "Rest? I don't even know what that word means anymore." His voice cracked. "I think I'm losing them in myself." Lightning flashed, illuminating his exhaustion. Eyes sunken, shirt rumpled, tie undone. The air between them felt heavy with grief neither dared to name. Sophia hesitated. She wasn't supposed to cross that door. She was a maid, not a savior. But something ancient stirred inside her, something older than duty, older than grief itself. Her hand reached for the door handle before her mind could stop it. The nursery opened with a soft creak. 3 identical cribs glowed under the faint light of the storm. Charlotte screamed until her tiny face turned scarlet. Emily's sobs came in frantic, gasping bursts, and didn't even cry anymore. Her silence was worse. Sophia's chest tightened. Without a word, she slipped off her yellow cleaning gloves. The world went quiet in her head. One by one, she lifted the babies, warm, trembling, fragile, until all 3 rested against her chest. Their heartbeats fluttered against her ribs. And then, softly, like a secret escaping, Sophia began to hum. The first note escaped her lips like breath after drowning, fragile, trembling, alive. It wasn't a song she had planned to sing. It rose from somewhere deep, a place she thought she'd buried years ago beneath the dust of forgotten dreams. It was her grandmother's lullaby, a tune born in the slow heat of Louisiana nights, where cicadas hummed and prayers were carried in song. A melody half gospel, half promise. The words barely mattered. It was a rhythm that healed, the heartbeat between notes that spoke louder than sound. Sophia swayed, her voice a whisper against the storm outside. "Hush now, angel, don't you cry. Mama's here and the stars will rise high." Her body remembered the motion, the gentle rocking, the way her breath had once soothed another tiny chest pressed to hers. Malik, he had come into her world like sunlight, too bright, too brief, born with a heart too fragile to keep time with life. He spent his 2 years fighting against pain that no medicine could silence. She had learned to hold him just so, to hum until his trembling stopped. That melody had been his peace and her goodbye. When he died, the music died with him. For years, she hadn't dared sing, not even to herself. The silence had been her shield. Until now, as her voice filled the nursery, the storm outside seemed to bow in reverence. Charlotte's cries softened first, her tiny fists unclenching against Sophia's chest. Emily's breathing steadied, the gasping replaced by long, shuddering exhales. And little N, silent, watchful N, reached up, her small hand gripping the fabric of Sophia's blouse, as if to say, "Don't stop." Sophia didn't. She couldn't. She sang through the tears, her heart breaking open with every note. The lullaby wasn't just for them anymore. It was for Malik, too, for every night she hadn't been able to save him. Behind her, William stood frozen in the doorway, his exhaustion replaced by something wordless. Wonder, maybe, grief, gratitude. The air between them shimmered with it. For the first time in 6 months, The Benjamin mansion fell completely silent. No machines, no crying, just the soft, even sound of breathing. 3 babies, asleep at last. And as the storm faded into dawn, Sophia closed her eyes and exhaled. That night, 3 babies slept, and 1 broken heart began to heal. Morning crept into the nursery like a hesitant guest, filtering through pale curtains and landing on faces that, for once, were at peace. The storm had passed, leaving behind a kind of silence that felt like a prayer answered too softly to believe. When Williams pushed open the door, he stopped. Sophia lay on the narrow nursery bed, her hair unbound, one arm curled protectively around the smallest twin. The other 2 were nestled close, their tiny chests rising and falling in a rhythm of perfect sleep. The machines were quiet, the air still. For the first time in half a year, his house wasn't humming with desperation. He didn't move. He simply stood there, watching the scene as if afraid his breath might break it. All wasn't a feeling he was used to. It felt too raw, too human, but that's what filled him now. The maid who had come to polish floors and fold sheets had done what no doctor, no algorithm, no machine could do. By breakfast, the whispers had already begun. The staff moved through the halls with wide eyes and hushed tones. The maid made the babies sleep. The words sounded like folklore, something that belonged in lullabies, not in the corridors of a smart mansion in Beverly Hills. When Sophia finally woke, she found William standing awkwardly in the doorway, coffee in hand, still looking like he hadn't slept, yet lighter somehow. "I don't know what you did," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "But thank you." Sophia sat up, flustered, smoothing her wrinkled uniform. "It was just luck," she murmured, avoiding his eyes. They must have been exhausted. He wanted to argue, to tell her that luck didn't sound like music or smell like hope, but he only nodded. "Maybe," he said, though neither of them believed it. That night, when the cries began again, Sophia sang. And again, the babies slept. Then the next night, and the next. Word spread. Even the cold marble of the mansion seemed to soften, touched by something warm and invisible. The staff began to smile more. The triplets laughed in their cribs. The house that had once pulsed with grief now exhaled peace. And Williams, ever the man of logic, found himself watching from the doorway, night after night, studying the way Sophia's voice wrapped around the children like light. He didn't understand it, not yet, but he knew one thing for certain. Somewhere between sorrow and song, something inside him had begun to stir. The house had grown quieter these days, peaceful in a way that still felt fragile, like glass newly mended. Each night followed the same ritual. 3 small heads pressed against soft pillows, one voice carrying them into dreams. But tonight, when Sophia's song faded and the last crib fell still, Williams didn't leave the doorway as he usually did. He lingered, the dim light casting tired shadows beneath his eyes. "That song," he said at last, his tone more question than statement. "Where did it come from?" Sophia froze, the warmth of her voice still lingering in the air. She hadn't expected him to ask. Not about that. For a moment, she pretended to busy herself with a blanket's corner, hoping the question might dissolve between them. But it didn't. "It's my grandmother's lullaby," she said softly, "from Louisiana. She used to sing it on summer nights when the power went out and the air smelled like rain." William stepped closer. "It's beautiful," he murmured, "but when you sing it, it sounds like more than a lullaby." Sophia's throat tightened. Her fingers twisted in the edge of the sheet. "It was my son's song," she whispered. "Malik. He had a heart condition. We didn't get much time. 2 years. The silence that followed was heavy, not awkward but sacred, like the pause between 2 prayers. Williams lowered his gaze, his voice breaking. "Melissa, she died giving birth to them. I kept thinking if I built enough machines, systems, success, I could stop feeling it. But grief doesn't listen to logic." Sophia looked up then, her eyes wet but steady. "No," she said. "It listens to love." For a long moment, they simply stood there, 2 souls bound by loss yet softened by understanding. The nursery around them seemed to hum with something gentle, the kind of peace that only truth can make. "When I sing," she continued, voice trembling, "I feel him again. Maybe that's why your daughters listen. Maybe they hear love. Williams's expression shifted, something tender flickering beneath the exhaustion. He saw her differently now, not as a quiet maid who'd healed his children, but as a woman who had known the same darkness and chosen to keep singing anyway. He exhaled slowly, his words barely more than a breath. Maybe you're not just helping them sleep, he said. Maybe you're helping me remember how to live. The storm returned without warning, an angry, churning sky swallowing Beverly Hills whole. Rain slapped the windows, thunder cracked through the night, and then, with one sharp sigh from the heavens, the mansion went black. The hum of machines died instantly. No soft night light, no white noise, no glow from the hall lamps. Only the sound of wind and the sudden, piercing cries of 3 terrified babies. William stumbled through the darkness, heart hammering, hands reaching for something familiar. "Sophia!" he shouted, voice tight with panic. "The generator." But before he could finish, a small flame flickered in the doorway. Sophia appeared, candle in hand, her face bathed in gold light. The glow trembled across her features, calm, steady, sure. "It's all right," she said gently, her voice cutting through the storm like a thread of silk. "They just need to know they're not alone." He watched as she moved to the cribs, lifting one child, then another, her motion slow and certain. When she turned to him, she pressed the sleeping bundle into his arms. "Hold her," she whispered. "Like this." She guided his hands, wrapping his arms around the baby's trembling body. It's called a containment hug. They feel your heartbeat. It tells them they're safe. Williams obeyed, awkward at first, then firmer, his body remembering something ancient and human. The child whimpered once, then quieted against his chest. Sophia began to hum, her voice low and familiar, that same melody born from love and loss. The candlelight shimmered with every note, flickering over the nursery walls like living stars. Her song carried through the room, soft, slow, eternal. And then, for the first time, Williams joined her. His voice was rough, uncertain, cracking on every other word, but he kept singing. Together, their voices intertwined, imperfect yet whole, like 2 threads finally finding their weave. The storm outside roared, then softened, as if the world itself leaned in to listen. The baby's cries faded one by one until it was only breathing, the small, rhythmic kind that means peace. Sophia looked up at him, candlelight catching the tears on his cheeks. He didn't hide them. In that fragile glow, surrounded by silence and new warmth, something shifted. Grief no longer felt like a wall between them. It had become the bridge. Outside, lightning flashed. Inside, the flame held steady. Out of darkness, there was light. And this time, it wasn't the power that had returned. It was life. Weeks slipped by quietly, like dawns that arrived without thunder. The mansion that once echoed with sleepless cries now breathed with new rhythm, gentle, steady, alive. Morning light spilled through the nursery windows, and laughter, not wailing, filled the halls. The triplets slept soundly through the nights now, their dreams soft and untroubled. During the days, their giggles bounced off marble and glass, turning the cold house into something resembling a home. Even the air felt warmer, as if the walls themselves had begun to remember what love sounded like. Williams had changed too. The sharp lines of exhaustion had softened, replaced by something close to wonder. Some evenings, Sophia would pass by his study and hear a low murmur, his voice, off-key but earnest, practicing lullabies under his breath. Once, she caught him in the nursery with a guitar, plucking the same 3 chords over and over, whispering, "Hush now, angel." The staff noticed first. The cook began humming again while she worked. The gardener lingered at the window to listen when Sophia sang. The mansion's routines no longer felt mechanical but human, stitched together by laughter and light. Sophia herself had grown into a quiet confidence. She moved through the estate not as a servant, but as its steady pulse, the one who had brought rhythm back to its silence. There were still moments she doubted it all, still mornings she reached instinctively for grief before realizing it had softened into something gentler. Memory, not pain. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the nursery, William stood in the doorway watching her rock and asleep. He didn't speak at first. He just observed. The easy way she smiled, the peace she carried, how the world seemed to bend a little toward her warmth. When she looked up, he stepped closer, his voice quiet. "You didn't just put them to sleep," he said. "You woke me up." Sophia blinked, unsure how to answer. The words hung in the air, tender and true, carrying more meaning than either dared to name. She smiled faintly, lowering her gaze. "Maybe we both did," she whispered. Outside, the garden shimmered under late afternoon sun. Inside, the house, once hollow and haunted, felt reborn. Between them lingered something unspoken, fragile but real. Not just gratitude, not just friendship, something beginning. Months passed, and the seasons softened around the Benjamin estate. The roses bloomed again along the walkway, their petals opening wide beneath the morning sun. Inside, the house that had once pulsed with sleepless chaos now carried an easy, living calm. Laughter wove through its corridors. Music drifted through open doors. Life had returned and stayed. Sophia's days were no longer counted by chores but by moments. Feedings, giggles, tiny footsteps. The triplets had begun to toddle. Their laughter a symphony she never grew tired of hearing. She no longer wore the maid's uniform. Instead, she carried the authority of someone trusted, needed, loved. One afternoon, Williams called her into his study. The air smelled faintly of cedar and coffee, and sunlight slanted across his desk where an envelope waited. He looked at her the way one might look at a friend they hadn't realized they'd been searching for. "You've been running this home for months," he said, handing her the letter. "It's time your title matched what you already are." She blinked down at the page, household coordinator and caregiver. Her throat tightened before she could speak. "This family exists because of you," William said quietly. "You gave them peace. You gave me peace." For a moment, the world blurred. All the years of silence, all the nights she'd hummed to no one but ghosts, they had led her here. She had not replaced what she'd lost, but she'd found a way to let love live again, through tiny hands and shared laughter. That night, she returned to the nursery. The triplets were already half asleep, their cheeks flushed with dreams. She tucked Charlotte's blanket beneath her chin, brushed a curl from Emily's face, and kissed Anne's small forehead. Then she sat between their cribs, the same place where her heart had once broken and healed. "Hush now, angels," she whispered, the melody spilling from her like a sigh. "Mama's here and the stars will rise high." Her voice trembled but didn't falter. It was softer now, filled not with grief, but with gratitude. When the final note faded, she leaned close and whispered, "Thank you for letting me sing again." Outside, moonlight spilled to the tall windows, bathing the room in silver. 3 steady breaths filled the quiet, each one small but certain. And beneath their rhythm, another joined in one heart, finally at rest. Did you enjoy the story? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and tell us which city you're listening from. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel, so we can build a community that shares inspiring stories together. Thank you so much for watching.